Hello, everybody. My name is Kristen Wolf, La Lobalista. If for those of you that don't speak Spanish, my nickname is La Lobalista means the wolf that is clever or the wolf that is ready. So, yeah, I like to think of myself as clever and ready, but not always. You know, we're all a work in progress. Anywho, I am really excited to come and to be here to talk with you today, all about a system that has changed my teaching career for the better. So, we're gonna dive in just a minute, but I want to tell you a little bit about me. So, as you know, this presentation is called "Making It All Fit Together." And that is critical when you're a teacher. And so for many years, I can honestly say that I didn't always feel like I was making it all fit together. And I oftentimes had administrators pull me aside and say things like, what's going on? You're doing this and then this and da, and how does it all fit together? How does it all fit together programmatically? How are the kids, how can you demonstrate that they're growing and learning and advancing in their proficiency? And what it all boiled down to is they felt safer in having me use a textbook because we've all been there. A textbook feels safe. It feels like you're making progress with your students, and you want to go through from chapter 1 through chapter 6 in this particular book, and then maybe next year continue on, etc. And so you feel this sense of security and safety in the fact that you've got this like plan, and you've got assessments that line up, and you've got a way to truly document that your students are making progress and that you're doing your job essentially. So that when I abandoned the textbook, because I oftentimes felt like the ones I was being asked to use were incredibly outdated and just not in line with where I wanted my students to be in a communicative language teaching, with a communicative language teaching approach. And so for me, abandoning the textbook was one of the best things that I ever did. And it also created a lot of havoc in my life. And I don't know if you're like me, but I liked that sense of security and stability, knowing that I was going from 1 to 6 or, whatever in year 1 and year 2, blah, 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 right? And you're continuing on. It felt safe. It felt secure. But I also felt like my students were bored. And I also felt like they weren't actually communicating using words that they would have chosen themselves. And I also felt like I was having to fill in so many gaps, culturally speaking, like with history, if I wanted to talk about history or the culture, or to enrich the language and make it really come alive for individuals in my classes. So hence I abandoned the textbook. Now many of you might know this, but I'm a teacher in Montana, and I have taught literally all ages. The only age group I have not taught are students at the university level. So I've taught preschool, I've taught infants and toddlers, preschool, yeah, that kind of preschool, daycare essentially. I've taught infants and toddlers, preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, and adults. And one thing I can tell you from my experience, this is my 12th year teaching, is that I've tried almost everything. And I think what always left me feeling really lost and frustrated, but also, I was having fun, but I didn't really have it all fit together nice and neatly like a textbook would. And what I can tell you is that since I've tried everything, I was always searching for that one thing that could be both flexible, fun, communicative. It could, I'm saying both, and then I add 3 things, but it could be fun, flexible, communicative, and really, really inspired by my students, essentially. And so I finally found this approach, and I wanted to share it with you today because I think it can help all teachers make every shiny new thing that comes down the pike fit in together with your program and make it feel really cohesive, really tight, and then you'll see your students just soar. So that is me in a nutshell. Since I have tried many, many things, and a lot of things worked and a lot of things didn't, I wanted to pause for a moment and have you think. If you need to pause the video, if you can do that, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend going and getting a little notebook. I usually have a notebook with me. For some reason, I don't right now. I have my whiteboard here, so I could always write on my whiteboard if I wanted to. But whenever I go to a conference like this, I always bring a little notebook so I can look back and go, hey, what did I learn? Okay, what do I want to implement? Okay, how does that fit in, right? Now that I have this framework, this way in which to make everything fit together beautifully, I want you, before we proceed any further, to pause for a moment. Again, if you can, in your notebook, write down one really cool thing that you've seen at this very conference, or maybe another conference. Think of one really cool thing, at least one. You probably have like 5 because they're amazing people at this conference. So just take a moment and write down 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 things that you're really excited about. Maybe it's, a way to incorporate culture. Maybe it's a way to get your students communicating more. Maybe it's a way to get them reading more. Maybe it's a way to get them, exploring on their own. Maybe it's like an integrated performance assessment or a project that you want to take on type of thing. So think about it. What's that 1 or 2 thing? What are those things that you really, really are excited about implementing on Monday? Okay, pause the video here if you need to. Okay, so hopefully you've written down that thing, maybe 2, maybe 3, that you're really pumped about, okay? Let me share my experience. For me, when I go to conferences like this, I'm always inspired and blown away by the talent in the world language community. We are truly an innovative, fascinating, fun, engaging group of people who really believe in our language, our culture, and we just want to make it come alive. We want our students to be lifelong learners. We want them to just take a deep dive like we did, right? And yet, if we incorporate every shiny new thing that comes down the pike, we're going to feel a little crazy, right? So that's why this presentation, I hope, will support you in making it feel really alive to you and your students. So let me give myself as an example. For me, I have been to a conference most recently where I saw this fabulous presenter talk all about movie talks, okay? Some people call them clip chats. Some people call them movie talks. Potato. So, there is a difference, and I know the difference. But I was really excited about it. I saw some movie clips that I wanted to use. I saw some ways to integrate them. But I also, in the past would have felt like, oh my goodness, how does that fit in? And why am I doing it? And is it going to feel like it's just very disjointed from the rest of my lesson plans? Maybe, right? So that's one example. Another thing that I've seen is like a, maybe a brain break or a close activity where you're listening to music. Maybe in the past, I've seen presenters give these amazing presentations. I walk away feeling blown away, inspired to the max, and just wanting to implement it on Monday, right? And then, in the past, I used to be like, wait, how does this fit in? Where do I put this? It doesn't make sense. Are my administrators going to come into my room and be like, what is this crazy lady doing now, right? Because again, I've abandoned the textbook. And so for many years, I felt like I was like, just trying all the new things, swimming around in a pool, right? So what I encourage you to do is to think about 2 things when you see a presentation from here on out, okay? 2 things. 1, are you writing this down? This is important. Okay, good job. This is a word to the wise, because I didn't have this information. I wish someone had sat me down and told me this when I decided to completely abandon the textbook. So number 1 question you should ask, the first question is, what is the communicative purpose of this task, this activity? What is the communicative purpose? Okay. And number two, you ready? Ready for number 2? Pause the video if you need to. Okay, number 2. What is the language function? So when I say communicative purpose, I'm referring to like, is the purpose to get your students to do interpretive reading, interpretive listening, presentational writing, those things that ACFL asks us to do, right? And when I say language function, is the language functioning like, is it describing a character? Are you listening to Soy Yo by Bomba Estéreo? That's for those of you non-Spanish speakers, it's I am me, or this is who I am, basically. And it's a really cute video if you haven't seen it. Check it out. But Soy Yo by Bomba Estéreo, a Colombian group that is amazing. I'm a huge fan. So if you're watching that, this little girl in the video is like describing herself. Oh, it fits in with my description cycle or my description unit. Huh? Because it's describing a character. It totally fits in. It's aligned. Woo! That's where I am now. Now I can look at something and go, is this interpretive listening, reading? Am I going to have them do presentational speaking? Whatever. And then I'd go, what is the function of the language? Is it describing something? Is it narrating something? Is it giving information about something? Maybe it's about, the Russian government. I don't know. Why not? So the point, those 2 questions are something I wish I had asked myself after every single amazing presentation that I saw at every conference. So I'm kind of like a professional development geek. Like I like to go to all the things if I can. And so these are the 2 questions I wish I'd asked myself after watching amazing presenters. So again, what is the communicative purpose and what is the function of the language? How is it functioning? Okay, so we're going to get back to that. But that's a little bit about me and just kind of like a teaser about this presentation. So as we continue, you're going to see if I can get it to work. There we go. So these are all the links that I'm going to be sharing that I've shared with you in my handout. So anytime you see a little black link with an arrow pointing to it, click there. There's something special just for you. Okay. Please check out all of the links. They are well worth your time. If I had these 7 links, there's more in the handout, but these 7 would have saved me so much time, so much energy, and it would have helped me to align my all of my lessons and all of my really fun activities and tasks in a way that is cohesive and feels like there's progress being made as the students progress from potentially middle school up through high school, or you could even use this with elementary schools as well. So these are the links. I'll be sharing some of these in a moment. This is there's more here, but let's pause for a moment. I'm going to get out of this one and head on over. This is kind of my outline, if you know what I'm saying. So essentially this daily framework is what has saved me. Okay. So I know that every day I go to teach, I'm going to be following this daily framework, and that ensures that I am not going to miss an opportunity for assessment, to get my students to perform a little bit, to get them to incorporate some little grammar study here and there based on things they've noticed. And it's going to help me to ensure that I'm getting them reading and writing every day as well. So this is what the daily framework, and this is what I like to use. I think this is the right one. Yep, here we go. So this one is something I like to use when I'm planning. I did this for my elementary students. And so, no, this is high school. I apologize. So this is just an example. You'll be able to edit this. It's a template for you to use. So essentially, this framework keeps me on task, on target, so that I always know where I am in a progression. If I choose to deviate from what a curriculum that I'm mostly using. So for me, if I'm planning for my Spanish classes 1 through 4, I can easily differentiate within this framework. The only difference between Spanish 1 all the way up to Spanish 4 for me is the amount that I'm asking them to produce and accomplish during a class period and comprehend, essentially. So I know that on Tuesday, if I've got a 35-minute period, okay, let's say it's a short period that day, I know that every time I'm coming in, I'm starting with norming the class. I'm going to say by the end of class, I say this, by the end of class, you will be able to respond to questions in the target language. Okay. Now, if this was for my Spanish 4 class, I might ask them to respond to questions in the target language using maybe at the beginning of the year, maybe 2 sentences or maybe a paragraph eventually. But for Spanish 1, sometimes I might say, by the end of class, you will be able to respond to questions like true, false questions in the target language. So I'm norming the class. They know what's expected. It's very explicit. There's no walking in. Students don't walk in anymore and say, what are we doing today? It's on the board. And I state it. And then we go into reading workshop every single day for 5 to 8 minutes. As you can see here, we read. We might read the thing from the class before that we wrote up together, or I might have them pick something from my library if I'm in person, or something that doesn't relate at all if I choose to. I might have them read a recipe just, for gazpacho or something like that, just for fun. Then the guided oral input is essentially the main part of my lesson. And I know that, at the beginning of the year, I kind of start with these few things. I do some small talk, like getting to know my students, essentially, finding out what they like, what they don't like, what they, how they're feeling, how they're doing. And then the weather, I talk about the weather, like, did it rain this weekend? Is it predicted to snow? Things like that. So I can easily incorporate the past, present, and the future by talking about the weather. It's super easy and fun. And then sometimes I might do the weather guessing game where I get them to, guess like, ooh, what would you call this weather, in Colombia or, in Japan, they're having this type of system pass through. What would you call that? Kind of, and we play little games with it. It's really fun. So that's something I would do at the beginning of the year, because at the beginning of the year, we're working on the cycle called description. You can see that at the top. And for my beginners, I'm oftentimes just talking about place or setting in the present tense. For my Spanish 4s, I might incorporate more diverse vocabulary, like, maybe I might pull in some subjunctive or some conditional or some future tense, just depending on what they need. So this way I can really individualize based on the class, because every class is a little bit different, as I'm sure you notice. The scaffolded oral review is where I'm naturally building in a formative assessment every single day, and I don't have to wonder when it's coming. My students don't either. I might say a sentence and they have to finish it based on some words we talked about in the guided oral input. It's really just a way for me to assess, like, were they with me? I usually make it really, really easy for them. And then the shared writing, that's when we write together. We sum up every single thing we talked about. Not every single thing, but a lot of it. And then we read it over in English and in Spanish. And then I ask them for grammar observations. Like, what did you notice? What do you want to teach the class? What are you proud of yourself for catching, right? That's during shared reading. And then I might end up with some true-false questions, or for my Spanish 4s, I might ask them to respond to one another and converse, about the true-false questions. So for me, I know that every single day I'm following, for the most part, all of these pieces. So I'm not missing opportunities to read with my students, get them to speak, get them to write, get them to read, and get them to notice some grammar. Because that's one thing that all of my other CI things that I love and adored were missing. And some of my students were literally asking for grammar study or some, a touching on grammar of sorts. And I like teaching grammar. I think it's fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. So this is one example of a lesson plan, and you will have this as a link. And you'll be able to adjust it. And so here you can see what I would do for an elementary class. It's very, very similar. I follow the same routine, but I might just limit the amount of new vocabulary if they're very novice learners. So, and I try to have fun. I might play a game with them as opposed to just talking with them about their preferences. I might have them draw during small talk up here, or just head to the weather guessing game. So these are some things that have really supported me, because I know, and my students know, that all of my lessons are predictable within reason. I try to vary it a little bit, like slightly, but I have like maybe 5 tricks in my bag that I kind of cycle through. So it feels a little novel, but it's actually not that novel. And for me, it feels really safe, because I feel like I can give a lesson on the fly, and I feel like my students are really pushed and challenged in the right ways based on how I know them and how I perceive them, in their learning journey. So it really helps me to differentiate, and I'm so grateful for this framework. It comes out of Stepping Stones. You can see it up here on the top left corner. This is a curriculum that is designed by Tina Harganen and her wonderful curriculum team. So that is the daily framework. And again, you will have that in this link right here. Oops, right here. So right about there. Okay, then every day while I'm going through this framework, my students are amazing. They made a packet. Okay, so at one point, Tina created a packet that I really liked. This is not it. I apologize. Here we are. So one of my students created this based on something that Tina created, and I love it so much because it allows me to self-assess my students every single class period. And it also makes everything really predictable for them. They know that every day when they walk in, they have a do now. It might be a question based on what we talked about the class before. It might be them just writing how they feel. It might be them telling me about their weekend. And usually I have a prompt on the board and supports on the board so that they can ask for help, or I'm there to help them to do all this. And based on how they performed in this presentational writing, again, this is a the communicative goal. So during this section, the communicative goal is presentational writing. So I get them to circle their grade for the day based on whether they did, if they were novice high, they did some sentences. If they were intermediate low in, let's say this is Spanish 1, intermediate low, they did 2 sentences. If they were intermediate mid, they added some past, present, and future, usually with my support. And that's okay, because it's presentational writing. Presentational writing basically means, as per ACFL, that they've got supports. They're using their supports appropriately. Not Google Translate. Usually it's from the teacher. Okay. And this is something I would have them write out in person. But I'm going to get to a way to do this online, because it'll blow your mind. It's great. And then for the main activity, the guided oral input, the main activity, I have them do interpretive listening. And again, they grade themselves based on how they did. If they add predictions and make some inferences, they're intermediate high. Boom! They know their grade for the day in interpretive listening. It's really nice. I love it so much. And they usually grade themselves spot on, because I've spent time going over this. Then, the writing, we always do our writing here. Sometimes I ask them to add things on. Sometimes I ask them to write 3 sentences only. Sometimes I ask them to literally copy whatever I write on the board, or in our Google chat, or in my Canva document. And so they have options. They can copy, they can add some grammar notes, and they can write inside the story, means adding their own thoughts. They can add some academic language that I usually have posted during class, either online or in person. So right here at the end of their interpretive reading and their writing part here, they're essentially reading as they write, usually, and they're interpreting it because we're talking about it and it's review. They end up grading themselves, and then I have less work to do. It's amazing. And then I always add in an exit ticket. If they want, they can add some key words down here that they want to remember. So this has been a really huge game changer for me, because I have grades that I can give them and they give themselves every day. And so all I'm doing is flipping through a stack of papers, or when I'm teaching online, a Google form and I just go through the spreadsheet and I go, okay, so-and-so got this, 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 and this. Plug it in, boom, I'm done with my grading. It is a dream come true for me because I don't like grading and I love it when my students are involved. Okay, so that's that. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. So I'm going to get out of that. Okay, so that is one more link that you have right here. That is the daily packet. Okay, and you could either use that in person or teaching remotely. We're going to get to some other ways that you can do this remotely. Daily framework. Okay, this is back to what we were talking about earlier. If for some reason you're teaching elementary and you want to know what this framework is and how to make everything fit in, you are going to head over here to, everybody run. Corre. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Oh, I went too far. I always do that with my students too, just to get them to maybe run a little bit more, just because we all need to have our blood pumping in these days when we're all sitting at a computer. So anyway, that's a really great extension if you want to check it out. So heading over here, this thing is something I designed with an organization that I work with called the World Language Initiative. And we essentially took the framework that I showed you earlier, that was a Canva document, and we turned it into a way that you could plug it into this spreadsheet. If you're curious to see some sample French lessons, Spanish lessons, or German lessons, they are at the bottom. I believe we even have, Arabic and Mandarin. So please check them out. And if this helps you to understand the daily framework a little better, please use it and check it out. I hope it will help you, because for me, understanding the daily framework has given me such structure and predictability and consistency in my daily lessons that it's been a true game changer. Okay, so if you can, pause the video right now. And after I tell you what to do, pause the video. So that, again, is right here for elementary classes. Pause the video and think. You've got, right now, you understand hopefully a little better, what a daily framework is. What's one activity, task, cool thing, cool shiny thing that you found at this very conference that you want to plug in to the daily framework? Maybe it's maybe you found a slideshow about a cultural lesson that you want to incorporate into the guided oral input. Maybe it's a reading activity that you'd like to do at the start of class. Maybe it's an assessment tool that you're excited about using for the scaffolded oral review part, when you're kind of just doing a quick assessment to figure out, were they with you? Were they part of you? Were they part of you? Were they with you during the lesson? That's what I'm trying to say. So, okay. So pause the video and think about that one activity and where it would fit into the daily framework. Go. Okay, hopefully you thought about that one activity that you want to incorporate. Now you know where to plug it in to your daily lessons so that you can fit in all the little pieces. And so you can get in that writing, those assessments, that reading, and maybe some speaking. Okay, cool. Moving on. We're going to head over here. These, I'm going to come back to these actually, because what I want to get to is this thought. We haven't really spent too much time. We're going to scroll down to here. We haven't spent too much time talking about the literary focus. Okay. So essentially, when I say that every presentation that you go to today or in the next few days, hopefully, maybe you're revisiting things, maybe you're thinking through things, right? You want to know what is the communicative purpose, right? And what is the language function, right? So those two things. So when Tina Harganen made up this amazing Stepping Stones curriculum that I'm following, it's what I love about it is it's so flexible, right? So you can come to a conference like this and you can plug things in once you know how to do it. And for me, that has been critical, because if our students aren't buying into what we're doing, what are we doing it for, right? We want them to be lifelong learners. We all know the vast amount of hours that we've put into either acquiring our language, or maybe we are blessed native speakers in that language, and we understand how much time it takes, right, to really get to that, to the higher levels. So essentially, a lot of students really want to be challenged. And I found that if we don't think about those two pieces critically, we're letting a lot of students down. Okay. And I was doing that myself. I really was. What I love about this approach with all of my heart is that it's bringing in those high flyers, those kids that really, really are either bored in most classes because they're like, what's the point, right? They don't understand why we're doing this. They're those kids that are like usually bored, or maybe they're right with you because you're an amazing teacher, as I'm sure you are, but they're also wanting more, right? So essentially, we want to know what a literacy focus is, because that is really critical to the stepping stones approach. And so you can read right here, it's what we often refer to as the language function, such as describing preferences or giving reasons for our opinions, okay? So what I love about this is Stepping Stones has mapped out, like it says right here, mapped out possible literacy foci. So things that we're focusing on for beginners, intermediates, and advanced students. That is totally something I was missing after I abandoned the textbook. I was swimming around in a sea of really cool things, shiny new things everywhere, and I was latching onto this and that and all the beautiful things, but yet I wasn't really differentiating appropriately, nor was I able to acknowledge that some of my students really, or truly acknowledge and honor that some of my students wanted more. So what I love about this is it gets us to model writing and speaking moves that will expose students to a language function in a meaningful context. Now, for some of you, that might feel contrived, but if you have taught long enough, you'll know that differentiation is a really hard thing to do. It's really difficult, right? To do it well and to honor everyone in your classroom. Well, what I love about this is the Stepping Stones approach will help you to with and support you with rubrics so that you can give these students something tangible to work toward, to know how they're going to progress in your class. That was something I was sorely lacking in my curriculum that I was trying to create on the fly in the past. And my administrators called me out on it. And now, because of Stepping Stones, I have these really clearly outlined rubrics that are tell me what the language, help me to hone in on the language function, because that's what we're focusing on. And it doesn't matter whether I'm describing Shakira, or whether I'm just describing Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or I am describing Muhammad Ali, or, all these other people, great people in our society, who, as long as I know that I'm in the description cycle, I know that I can support my students in using language that is going to accurately describe and help them to hone in on what they want to say about those individuals or about themselves. So as opposed to me giving them just a list, like a textbook would, this is really it's putting language in a context that is so insightful and enriching, and students just latch on to it because they see that there's progress, and you're making the progress really evident to them with these rubrics. They can grade themselves because they're written so clearly. So this literacy focus, or the language function, has been really critical for me to understand as an educator, so I can support my learners. So and this other part we're going to come to in a little bit. How do I choose topics? That is the cool part. You get to decide, and your students get to decide. Or you can just follow along with what they've given you in Curriculum Club. So if you so choose. So heading back to up here. So if you are at the, if you want to check out this one, number 5, we're skipping ahead a little bit. So if you go to number 5, this link right here, it would look like this. Okay, so this is your scope and sequence, multi-year spiral scope and sequence. In other words, you're going to be coming back to these topics. You're not just going to hit on, describing settings and then never touch it again. That's unrealistic, right? Students need repetition. They need support. They need to know how to come back and maybe describe their town a little in more detail, maybe using a little more auditory details, like talking about what it sounds like in their town. Maybe they didn't do that sufficiently in year 1, so they're going to get to it in year 2. I'm just throwing that out there. But what I love about this is it's so explicit, and the students just thrive because they know where it goes. So this I'm going to scroll through this because you can check this out on your own. There's so much here. It's sometimes really daunting. Let's go to description. So right here, I've been talking about describing settings. So this is cycle 1, phase 1. So a phase 1 is, a cycle could be, usually for me, a cycle takes about a month, usually, in normal classes. If during COVID, everything has been weird for me, and I've gone really slow, and I actually just jumped ahead to narration. But here we are in describing settings, cycle 1, phase 1. I know that my beginners, you can see right down there, right here, the language function is, I know that my beginners are going to be able to use sensory details to describe a setting. My intermediates are expected to describe the weather, the date in the past, present, and the future, and make some predictions. And then my advanced students are going to be sequencing, organizing, and making comparisons. So having this outlined so clearly for me has been really helpful, because then I know how to exactly challenge those advanced students versus challenge my beginner students, right? And sometimes one is easier than the other for depending on who you are, right? And what your focus is. What I love about this is it's very clearly outlined. And so I know that I shouldn't be doing topics, all the topics that are right down here, topics are over there. I apologize. Topics, I shouldn't be going away from these topics too much. But if I can find a way to make a topic weave in beautifully with my description of settings, I'm going to do it, of course. So, these are, and I love that it's outlined so clearly for me in the sense that I can go to my administrators if I need to and just go, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. This is how I'm supporting beginners, intermediates, and advanced students. The whole document is a massive document. I'm not going to go through it all, but it is here in your handout for you to peruse at your leisure right here, number 5. If you want to check out all of these lessons that will naturally do this, that will help you, if you don't want to overthink it, if this feels crazy overwhelming to you, which believe me, it can feel that way. Just know that you can head over here to the Teachers Pay Teachers site, number 4, and you can download free curriculum right here. If you look over here, it's got it's got the Chinese starter curriculum, it's got the English curriculum, French, German, Italian, Latin. There are so many things on this website. I highly recommend checking it out. It's well worth your time and your energy. If you click here, this is a paid version. You're going to end up at a Padlet. I'm on cycle 2, phase 3. So I am doing a lot of legends with my students right now. And this is just kind of some insider stuff I'm loving it because I've got these really great, I've got a Jamboard check-in that I can use when I'm teaching remotely or in person. I've got students telling me how they feel. I talk about how they're feeling during the week. We talk about the calendar. I might have them read a recipe about pico de gallo, and some of the students might be excited and want to go home and make it. It's been really fun. We talked about the legend of Quetzalcoatl, or La Serpiente Emplumada, which is right down here, and you can click on it, and this is the paid version, but the free version is just as good and just as enriching for your students. And it goes through all of the framework for you within a Google form. Where's the Google form? Maybe it's not here. Maybe I already passed it. I probably did. So what I love about this is it's lined out for me, and I don't have to think as much as I used to. There it is. It is right here. So it was one of the first things. So click here. It'll ask you to make a copy. And these are some of the things that are right on the website. This is the paid version, but the free version is just as beautifully designed. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, I highly recommend just checking out the Google Forms. Even right there, just using that, I sometimes just use that and feel great about it. Because it goes through the daily framework in a really stunning and easy to follow way. My students really appreciate it. With lots of great visuals. Oh, I love the visuals. They have made a huge difference in my teaching this year. Okay, so that is that. This is the Teachers Pay Teachers site, and you can check that out more here because you got the link. If you ever want to join Curriculum Club because you're feeling like you're overwhelmed and you want support and you want to be a part of a really amazing community, let's go to my courses. So this is what the Clubhouse looks like on the CI Liftoff Teachable page. Is it going to let me go there? I thought it was going to. Oh, yeah, I accept the terms. I don't know why it's having me do that. Anywho, if you go into the Curriculum Club, it looks like this, and you've got all of these people walking you through how to use the lessons. You've got demos. You've got the description cycle right here, narration cycle right here. They're walking you through. Oh, this is not it. I apologize. That was a French class that Tina taught, which was great too. But this is the one I was talking about earlier. So there's a video tour. There's you can search videos so that you can see, how to do this strategy, how to make this piece work. Am I doing this part right? Right? You're part of a community. What you're doing is, if you ask your school or if you want to join this community, I highly recommend it. It has transformed my teaching. I feel incredibly supported. I've got a group of people I can always turn to with any question. And oftentimes I think I've got something figured out, and I don't have it figured out as well as the next person, and they can help me through it. And I feel so blessed to be able to have a group that I can talk about the daily framework and this amazing curriculum that cycles on. It's a multi-year spiraling curriculum that is sequenced. It's changed my career for real. So this is a little bit of preview of what Curriculum Club looks like. And in Curriculum Club, we also have a Facebook group that we share resources with. If for some reason you're feeling like that's not enough and you want to see what these are like in action and how to make things fit together better, because again, you already know about one, how, what is the communicative purpose? Like if you've taken these activities or these tasks or these lesson plans from other presenters, you've been thinking, hopefully now I've prompted you to think about what is the communicative purpose of that specific thing, right? And then also you're now questioning, what's the language function? So if you're thinking in that way and you still are wondering how to make it how to make it all fit together, Summer Institutes, link number 7 is for you. So Summer Institutes I attended last year and it blew my mind. They got some of the most amazing presenters, kind of like during this conference, you're going to walk away and you're going to be like, oh, I want to do that and I want to do that. And this all supports all of the lesson plans that I showed you on the Teachers Pay Teachers site. It is so supportive and helpful to me to be able to go through and watch somebody using these exact lessons that understand what the function of the language is and the communicative purpose, so that they're constantly cycling back to those two questions in a really meaningful and concerted way. It's I think what I love about it most is it's just inspired me to take things deeper and professionally, and I hope that you will take that deep dive as well. Because a lot of these materials are free, like I'm sharing with you right now, and yet you're still probably going to want support. So that's normal. Don't hesitate to get it, and really make sure that you and your students feel helped along this journey. So summer institutes are coming this summer, and they are amazing. We've got Gaelic, French, Spanish, and English as a second official language, ESOL. So check it out if you want. I went to all 4 last year, and they blew my mind. The presenters were really helpful, and for me to see in action, like them putting this curriculum to work. It was great. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so those are the main 7 links that I wish I had. They helped me to understand better how to implement the and understand the communicative purpose and the function of the language in every single thing that I touched going forward. And then I wanted to throw this out there. These e-lit readers that Tina and the team are building are amazing. If you click right here, you can sign up. If you click on the logo, it'll help lead you to this website where you can sign up. And it is a really, really, it's worth your time. If you are teaching students online, this is especially worth your time. Even I use it, and I'm teaching in person. I love it. All of the readers are designed with lots of graphics that support the language and help the students to approach reading in a really scaffolded and measured way, so that they feel like, oh my gosh, I understood that. I can do this. I am smart and capable. That's what we want for every kid, right? So the e-lit readers are amazing. Tina also let me share. Oh, I'm getting out of this one. Thank you. So Tina also let me share in this link right up here. You can click right here and go to see all of these amazing readers. This is what I'm talking about. So all kinds of topics. She even accepts input if you want your kids to read. If you've got a kid that really likes tractors, or let's say they love, they're obsessed with Canada, or maybe they want to learn more about the ocean, they will accept suggestions, and they'll design a reader for you and your students based on their passions and their interests. Love it. It's amazing. Oh my gosh. Game changing, right? So these little readers are beautifully done, and I highly recommend checking them out. So check them out right here in this link right about here. These are just some examples. Also, if you're still feeling like, how do I choose topics with this system? That's fair. So again, I really want you to think, if you need to, pause the video again. Think about a topic that a student has asked you about. Maybe they're like, hey, I want to cook with you. Something from the culture. Maybe they are really excited about a dance. Maybe they want to learn more about a historical event or a character, historical person. Those should be the things that drive your design, your curricular design, in my opinion. Because if we've got students who are asking for things, we know they're invested. We know they are driven, and they're going to be lifelong learners of our language, right? So pause right now, if you can, pause the video and write down 2 or 3 topics that you've heard your students specifically ask you to teach about. Pause the video. Okay, you're back. So hopefully you've written down 2 or 3 topics that you've heard students ask for, right? They want to learn more about it, right? They're passionate about it. Well, as language teachers, we're really lucky. We can literally teach about almost anything, but we need to make sure it fits in with that communicative purpose and the language function, right? that's not always an easy thing to do necessarily if you're new to this whole line of thinking, right? So what I would do is say, okay, if you got a student who, let's say, is really interested in Canada, just throwing that out there. Some kids are, they get passionate about a country. Why not? Why not? They're interested in Canada. You're going to go, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm going to give them information about Canada. Maybe I'm going to compare Canada to the United States. And maybe I'll throw in Haiti and we'll compare all three countries. Or maybe I'll also throw in, let's see, Indonesia. Why not? Because maybe you've got some students who are interested in those countries as well, right? Or maybe you're throwing in Cameroon. Why not? So you're going to compare all four countries. Let's say Cameroon, Canada, Haiti, and Indonesia. Let's say those four. Then you're going to go, wait, I'm going to be giving them information about these countries. That's in the information cycle. That is the function of the language. Boom. You're going to wait until you get to that part of the year. And if you need to, you can skip ahead. It's okay. Make the curriculum work for you and your students. Trust me. They'll thank you later. Also, and then you're going to think about, wait, what's the communicative purpose at every time you're thinking about something you want to do with them regarding Cameroon, Canada, Haiti, and Indonesia. You're going to go, oh, cool. Well, I'm going to get them to do some interpretive listening. I'm going to get them to do some presentational writing with my support. I'm going to get them to do some presentational speaking with my help, and maybe some, I don't know, I'm blanking right now. But anyway, you get it. Those are the communicative purposes that you're going to be having them do during that information cycle or unit. And they're going to be blown away because you're talking about things that they're curious about, and they're going to thank you, and they're going to feel seen, heard, and understood. It's game changing. Trust me. So that's how I choose my topics. I listen for what my students want to talk about, and I go, okay, this fits in. Right now, this sounds kind of silly, maybe to some of you, but we're literally reading the Magic Treehouse series because my students wanted to read it. They were like, I want to feel nostalgic and read about Jack and Annie and their adventures, right? So we're doing that as a part of narration. We're focusing on the narrative of Jack and Annie and their adventures in the first book, in this case. And it's been really fun, and they're really getting into it, and I love it. And we're talking using language that's usually focused around narration and narrating a story. It's been beautiful. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you don't want to follow what we've got lined out for you in Curriculum Club, or the lessons in Teachers Pay Teachers, listen to your students, and you can make it all fit in with this beautiful framework and with the scope and sequence that will line you out through the year. It's beautiful. Trust me. Okay, right here, getting to that. Let's say you want to sketch out the year in advance. Maybe you do a survey in the spring and again in the fall about what their interests are. You can literally go through and plug in, okay, cool. I know that we're going to be describing people inside and out when we talk about Wayne Gretzky. Let's say you have a kid in your class who's obsessed with Wayne Gretzky. Why not? You're going to be describing him, okay? Maybe you have another student who is totally obsessed with Malala. Why not? People inside and out, right there. If you've got a student who's really interested in World War II, you're going to talk about historical stories right here. You're plugging that in. If you've got a kid who just loves, let's see. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head. Oh, let's say you've got a kid who likes to argue. I've got a bunch of those in my class. You want them to talk about the best and the worst of something. Maybe you want them to compare Instagram versus TikTok. I don't know. Things like that. You want to be able to pull from what they are giving you and what they're passionate about. And this little piece of paper, or this little document that you're going to have in the handout, will help you to do just that. Those of you that are teaching online, I wanted to point this out to you. There is an amazing group called online of teachers who are taking this curriculum club materials, and they're putting into Desmos. So amazing. It's been, if you want to join, you can join the group right here. This is literally what it looks like. It's a great group. I'm so honored. Not honored. I'm just so blown away by their ingenuity. It's fabulous. And I really am excited to dive into Desmos more. I don't know much about it, but I just want to throw it out there. You can join. Anyone can join. And then once you do join, they've got, I believe you can find at the top. Yep, he pinned it right here. No. Yeah, he's got some videos. He's also got a, where is it? Okay. It's not there. Well, anyway, I pulled it up for you and I linked it for you. So let's say you are wanting to use Desmos and you are curious about how it fits in with the cycles and phases. You can look right here, cycle 2, phase 1, okay? That's narration, and phase 1, I believe, oh my God, is personal stories, yeah. So let's say you want to have your students in French, because Nissa Quill does French. She's amazing. You can check it out right here, and you can find out what she's plugged in. She's got all the visuals in there from Curriculum Club, and she can see in real time her students responding. It's fabulous. I need to check it out more. Again, like I said, I'm not an expert, but the next time I go to teach remotely, I'm going to be totally using Desmos and this spreadsheet to pull lesson plans, and then I won't have to think about it. Oh, tricep dips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, I'm going to just do 15 this time. Anyway, check it out. I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. That, the Facebook page and the spreadsheet is right here, and the group is linked right there. All right. I am attending Summer Institutes, and here's why. It changed my teaching career last summer. I got to see four people, 4 different languages, and it really helped me to knit everything together. It helped me to go, what is the communicative purpose of this amazing thing that I want to do? And what is the function of the language? These are 2 things that ACTFL asks us to do. These are part of the can-do statements. These are part of the world language readiness world readiness standards. So please do yourself a favor and start thinking critically like that about everything you want to put in and plug in, and then your program will start to feel more cohesive. If you want to learn more about Summer Institutes, I highly recommend clicking this link. It'll bring you to a handout all about it. And these are the dates: June 14th to the 18th, July 19th to the 23rd, August 2nd to the 6th. It'll teach you all of these great things. There's so many different ways. It helps you to differentiate. I feel like I'm way more prepared to do that. Helps me to incorporate culture and assessments, and really demonstrate the growth that my students are accomplishing. So that's that lovely handout. And then the honest truth. Here's the honest truth. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. Oh, and at the very beginning, there was a link to my bio. If you're curious, you can read my bio later. It's at the top. But this is the honest truth. Okay, let me level with you. See, as language teachers, we work so hard. We're really passionate about our kids and what we teach. And we are so blessed that we can literally teach about anything. So why not maximize that? And why not consistently be thinking critically about what is the communicative purpose and what is the function of the language before we implement anything? And if we can do that, if you can start doing that, you're going to go from this. Like I was here. This was me. Grab bag approach. I was like working my butt off to learn something new, and I was coasting along, and then I dropped, and then I'd learn something, and over time, I just, I was putting in so much effort and so much time, right? Now with the framework, I don't have to think as much about what is coming up. It's all kind of lined out for me, and I love that. And my students, I can tell they feel safer and more ready to dive into things because I feel more confident. So I highly recommend trying this out. If it feels daunting to you, you're not alone. But I can tell you that if you put in the time and the effort, your time, that you will spend less time and less effort in the future. That is where I'm starting to get there, and it feels so good. And I want that for every teacher, because we work so hard. We are passionate teachers, and just give yourself a hug and a pat on the back, and just know that you are loved and you deserve this medal right down here. You are a new thing trier, and I applaud that. So keep it up, and make sure that you're supporting yourself in learning something that is going to really be an enduring piece of your professional development and professional career. So thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate your desire to try something new and make things fit in a cohesive manner. You are not alone in this journey, and feel free to reach out if you have any comments or questions. I would love to hear them. Again, you can always reach me at La Lobalista on most social media outlets. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments, your questions, and I really look forward to diving into this with you. Take care.